And today on What Now, the Economic Community of West African States reject transition program announced by Guinea-Bissau's junta following last month's military takeover. In Australia, authorities described Bondi Beach attack as a worst mass shooting since 1996, revives a debate on sweeping gun control reforms. These issues will form our areas of discourse in just a moment. Hello and thanks for joining us. This is What Now. I am Precious Amayo. Let's begin in Australia, where the country has been thrown into mourning after at least 15 people were killed during a Jewish Hanukkah celebration at Sydney's Bondi Beach. Police have described the shooting as a terrorist attack carried out by two gunmen in what is a rare incident in a country known for its strict gun laws. Authorities say this is Australia's worst mass shooting since 1996, when a gunman killed 35 people at Port Arthur, an attack that led to sweeping gun control reforms. At least 40 people remain in hospital, including two police officers described as serious but stable. Police say the suspects are a father and son duo, and investigations are continuing. Now, to help us understand the broader implications, including violence and gun control in Australia, I'm joined by Dr. Emmanuel Perlman. He's the founder, Destination Peace, Baltimore, Maryland. Good to have you join us, Dr. Perlman.
Thank you. It's good to be here again. First, I want to tell you that I'm feeling tremendous grief, human grief, for the lives taken and the families whose world has been shattered, especially during the Festival of Light. As far as gun control, there's a persistent idea, especially on parts of the left, that controlling weapons controls violence. But throughout history, what has killed more innocent people, and the people at Bondi Beach, wasn't ultimately a firearm. Through millennium, it's been hatred, pure, irrational, murderous hatred. In this case,
and Dr. Perlman, I will get there in just a moment, because we also look at the fact that the father, because it was a father and son duo who carried out this attack. The father had 6 licenses for guns. That yes. We'll get to that in a moment. But I also wanted to start with the fact that this is the first, it's been described as the worst mass shooting in Australia since 1996. Australia has always prided itself, as one of the countries with the lowest mass shooting around the world. And I just want to get your thought on this.
Well, I think that the main problem is that whether or not you have licenses for guns or for weapons, you can have any kind of a weapon. You can have a bomb. You can have incendiary devices. You can use vehicles as weapons. So the real problem, and I'm telling you, is I've been listening to the tenor of the Prime Minister, Albanese, who has had criticism that's been lopsided, as I've stated before on your program, with regard to, in this particular case, the Jewish people. Having been a clergyman for over 50 years, I've listened to this kind of baseless hatred. So the real problem is not just guns and gun control, because the killing could have happened with a bomb. It could have happened in other ways. I think the main thing is that we have to focus on terrorism. That is the focus that I don't see happening throughout the media. There is a climate that has devalued certain human lives, and this violence cannot become acceptable. That's my strong message, especially at a time of a holiday for a religion. How can you attack people? They attack on the Yom Kippur War. They attack when a people is the most vulnerable. Could you imagine attacking on Christmas? And now they're finding out that this may be happening. There are terror cells even in my country here in the United States that they've discovered in California. So I think that this persistent idea, especially on controlling weapons as violence, is only the underlying symptom. I think we need to get to the root causes. That's my strong opinion.
Absolutely. I also want to talk about the root cause of this. You rightly mentioned this was carried out during a Jewish holiday, Hanukkah. And then the sheer the number of people who were killed and the manner in which they were killed. And some have talked about the rise of anti-Semitism in the wake of the Israel-Hamas, conflict. And some have said countries around the world are not paying attention to it. And I just wanted to speak to it if you think that this was also at the heart of this particular attack.
I agree with you. The problem is that first we have to stop pretending that genocidal language is just protest rhetoric. I've said before on your program that when crowds chant from the river to the sea, they're not calling for coexistence, they're calling for the elimination. The Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, that's all of Israel. But that's not all of Israel, that's Jews. The bulk of Israel, it's a Jewish state. And there are many states that have theocracies and religious foundations. Why can't there be a Jewish state? But because of that reason alone, it gives people excuses to kill people. When people come out into the public squares, when people go into the colleges and teach these things in normalized language, normalized thought, then this can happen on the beach in Sydney. So the question wasn't whether it was going to happen, it was a question of where. So I would say that silence is complicity. I've written a lot about this publicly. I just wrote a book about it. If we don't speak out, if we don't demand our institutions enforce the laws against incitement against all people. And I want to make one other comment. I am so pleased that Ahmed El Ahmed, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I think in Arabic it means someone who's to be praised. This man risked his life and he saved human beings. He wasn't there to save Jews or Muslims or Christians. He risked his life and he took down that terrorist and he's in the hospital. So that's what I'm thinking about, that he's like a candle on the Hanukkah menorah. He's that one candle.
And we'll speak about him in just a moment, because I've never seen anything like that. He was a bystander, not even part of the celebration, just standing there. But going against what would have seemed like a member of his own community. But we'll get that in just a moment. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that in March there was a bi-parliamentary probe into concerns and claims raised by students in Australia about feeling insecure. They say that there was a rise in anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic rhetoric on their campuses, and they did not feel safe. And just looking back now, people are talking about that particular report, saying, look, there was nothing done to allay the fears of the students or even just the Jewish community. We know that back and forth, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Albanese has had, that back and forth in terms of their relations. Do you think that this perhaps should be investigated and government should be held accountable for lack of protection?
I think that the fact that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wrote a letter months ago talking about how the Prime Minister had lopsided criticism over the war, and the fact that he wanted to have a Palestinian state, which Benjamin Netanyahu considered to be a reward to terrorism. I always wonder whether people are just forgetful over time, but 1,200 civilians were kidnapped, and 252 people kidnapped, including, I think, 42 Americans. And those hostages, as you know on your program, you reported it, were tortured, starved, sexually assaulted, and held for over 2 years. How long was that in the news? 2 days later, I think it happened in Australia at the Opera House, that they were out there calling for gassing Jews and using an expletive deleted to kill, I don't want to say the words, but to kill Jews. And apparently they have now shown a picture of the perpetrator in that crowd. They have him in video at that protest against Jews. Now, when people call for violence against other people, how is that, a First Amendment right? So I really think that politicians are either afraid for their own lives that they don't speak out, or their governments have become so infiltrated that they have no alternative. So this is the most dangerous time for my people since the Holocaust. Everyone with a conscience all over the world. You know, I've been to Enugu, Nigeria, and you know, I love Nigeria. I love coming back there, and we know that there are pockets there where there is terrorism. Something must be done in all countries around the world to eradicate not religion, and we need to stop talking about religion. We need to talk about radicalization. That's the key problem. That's my opinion.
And you're right, because in every religion, there are fanatics who take the tenets of that religion just beyond what it was meant to be. But I also want to ask you, do you think that now that this has happened, perhaps this will further strain relations between Israel and Australia?
Well, I think those relationships were already strained, and now I think that they're going to be severed to a certain degree. But I think that if enough people, and I've always said this even about the people in Iran, I think that the thing that's most important are the symbolisms in our religion. And it's not Hanukkah, it's not Christmas, it's not the Muslim holidays, it's the fact that we have light and we can light candles to remember that even the smallest flame can hold back darkness. And the terrorists at Bondi Beach, they tried to put out that light for the Jewish people, but they will eventually try to put it out for those who don't agree with their way of seeing life. You know, death is too often the promoted thing here. We believe in life. Religions believe in helping the living, not causing death and destruction. So for every hand that reaches for violence, there are 1,000 more, I believe, reaching to help, to heal, and to rebuild. That should be the Christian, the Jewish, and the Muslim story. That should be the human story. And it won't end on the beach in Sydney, and it won't end with the relationships between Australia and Israel. It will end when people of good nature stand up and do what's right.
And let's talk about the hero, as you mentioned earlier, Ahmed, who just went in for it, not caring for his own life, just ensuring that every other person is safe. The fact that he is Muslim, does that also douse the tension that this could have raised?
Yes, I agree. That's an excellent question. So this Muslim man, and his name Ahmed El-Mahmed, he deserves to be remembered alongside the victims because he risked his own life. He was willing to give up his own life. I know nothing about his family yet, but he went after one of the gunmen. He didn't see Jews and Muslims. He saw innocent people. There was a child screaming. You could hear them in the video. And they were under attack. And this killer needed to be stopped. And the police, now, how long does it take police? This is something also that needs to be investigated. How long does it take for police to come forward? And you know that I am very pro-police, very pro-police. But I don't know the police system in Australia. But where our hope lives is in the people of every faith, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or even atheist. It doesn't matter, who understand that hatred based on religion is an abomination. That brave man that you asked about, he represents the world we need to build. To him, I will say directly, and if he ever hears this, the Jewish people honor your courage, and history will remember you. You were there. You stood up and you defended innocent people. God bless you.
Dr. Pamela, I'll put you on hold. As we'll take a break now, I would like us to sort of pivot to the gun control aspect of this. You have said that's not a problem, but I would just want us to expand further on it. Stay with us, everyone. You're watching What Now? Thanks for staying with us. You're watching What Now? We've been speaking about the devastating incident in Bondi Beach in Australia that led to the death of 15 people. That particular incident was eventually sort of, should I use the word, stopped or averted further by a Muslim man, Ahmed, and he's now being celebrated as a hero. Many saying he should be given every kind of honor as there is in Australia. We've been talking about this with the founder, Destination Peace, Baltimore, Maryland, Dr. Emmanuel Perlman. Thanks for staying with us, Dr. Perlman.
Yes.
So let's talk about the gun control element of this. I was speaking earlier and I said the perpetrator, the father and son duo, the father had 6 gun licenses, and we understand that those guns were used in this attack. You said it is not about gun, it is about hate. But for every hate crime we've seen, it is perpetrated by individuals who have access to weapons. And people have said, look, that access should be limited. And so you can have individuals who have hate, but do not have the weapons to carry out just their imagination and I'm looking for the word, not being able to carry out, their desires towards those that they hate.
Well, again, when I mentioned the police earlier, and I was very passionate, I would say that police are trained how to use firearms. And people that possess weapons need to have training. So if there had been no gun, there would have been explosives or a vehicle or knives. We've seen it all before. The weapon is just the tool. The hatred is the cause. Until we confront ideologies that treat killing people as a religious or political duty, we'll keep mourning deaths that didn't have to happen. So there has to be better gun laws. And I was told that Australia had some of the best gun laws in the world. So therefore, who is giving out the weapons? Where is the training? What kind of criteria are they actually administrating when people do get a gun? How can somebody get 6 guns with that kind of a background check? So I would think that publicly they should find out what questions are being asked, what testing is being asked. Are people, being tested for firearm proficiency? So it's all these things, whether they're happening or not. And I want to come back because of the statement I made about the police. It's not their fault if they're being told to hold back. And sometimes this happens too. And I just feel that people that can protect others, that are sworn to protect others, need to work freely and efficiently as possible. And I give them all the permission that one could possibly find to be able to do that, proficiently and quickly, swiftly. There's no reason that this could not have been deterred quicker, faster, if people had only realized the warning signs, especially coming out of Israel from the Prime Minister.
And Dr. Perlman, can we agree that whilst there is an ideology and radicalization problem, there is also a gun control problem?
There's always a control problem with weapons, with guns, with bombs, with suicide vests, with vehicles. I mean, when a person goes to get a motor vehicle license, they don't go there with the understanding that they're going to use it in a mass tragedy. So yes, always you can do better, but I also think that it's not always the enforcement after the fact. There has to be something pre-licensing to make sure that the people that you're giving this gun to are mentally fit, that they pass all the kinds of tests that are necessary. Don't forget, I was a psychiatric social worker in New York City for 10 years, and I worked with people who had access to weapons, and many times they needed to be reported because of them manifesting this kind of mental health decompensation. People need better laws. Yes, absolutely.
All right, so as we address, because I'm trying, you talked about dealing with the radicalization or the ideology problem, and I'm staying on this because I'm wondering if they have to be mutually exclusive. If as we deal with the radicalization problem, we also begin, because again, this is a challenge in the US. It's been a debate for long. We've had children die in the US just from mass shooting. And then Congress continues to debate on it. They've not been able to get a bipartisan support for gun control. And I'm wondering, as we deal with the mental health issues, the radicalization issues, shouldn't we also be tightening gun control so that we have that two pronged approach to ensuring that people are safe?
Again, that's an excellent question. I think it has to be a holistic answer. I think that you have to deal with all of those issues at once. You can't just piecemeal these things. You have to codify things better in terms of the gun testing. You have to make sure that guns are safe. You have to make sure that guns are secure in people's homes, that they have a safe so that they're not accessible to children. Many times children end up in classrooms with guns. I grew up in Rhode Island where the shooting just took place. I lived in that neighborhood where Brown University is for many years as a child. So it's true that sometimes even children have access to guns. People have access to prescription drugs. People have access to painkillers. The truth is that this must require a three-pronged approach. Mental health, a true, valid testing for who gets these weapons. And three, yes, I agree with you. I'm not trying to diminish the idea that we shouldn't have better gun laws. But when the focus is gun laws, when an attack happens from terrorism, then I feel it's an excuse made by those people that don't want to deal with the real event, that innocent lives were lost on Bondi Beach, or happened at a Pittsburgh synagogue, or happened on 9/11 or other times, that we need to focus on gun control, not when the crisis happens, but way, way before. That's my strong opinion. We always are reactionary. We need to be more proactive.
Absolutely, and I hope that we'll learn, because really we've moved from, well, it is still an issue today, but we moved largely from Black Lives Matter, and now we're moving to Jewish Lives Matter as well, and does every minority having one challenge of safety or the other. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see how the Australian government reacts to this. Dr. Perlman, founder, sorry, I'm trying to get that again, founder, Destination Peace, Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you for your time as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
All right, that's What Now. For more updates on the international stories we're monitoring, whether it's Australia or the ECOWAS story, we do apologize for not being able to bring that to you. We'll do that subsequently. You can visit our website, it's www.tvcnews.tv. You can also follow us on our social media handles, so on Facebook, Instagram, and on X at TVC News NG. We also have updates for you on WhatsApp and Telegram at TVC News Nigeria. On YouTube or live at TVC News Nigeria. Thanks for watching. We'll be back here again tomorrow with more international stories and analysis. I am Precious Amayu.